Thank you for attending this evening. If we can go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and stay standing for a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Dr. Bowman.
Ms. Scott,
Here.
Mrs. Wise,
Here.
Mr. Irwin,
Present.
Mrs. Killian,
Present.
Mrs. Lohr,
Present.
Ms. Lauer, Dr. Powers.
Present. First on the agenda is our public hearing for the 2022 general obligation bond. We will review, discuss the process and potential projects for general obligation bonds in 2022. Do we do the presentation first, and if there are public comments after that? Mrs. Wilson.
President Killian, Superintendent Hayworth, members of the Board of School Trustees. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is the approval of the final two resolutions in the general obligation bond issuance process, the additional appropriation resolution and the final board resolution, and those were in your board packet this evening. At the last board meeting, we discussed that these funds would be used to provide school facility improvements and also provide the purchase of equipment and technology. John Newport, Director of Facilities, will give a brief update on how we've used this financing option in the past for building improvements as we've done these short-term bond issuances since 2017 to offset circuit breaker losses. Following Mr. Newport, the public must be given an opportunity to speak regarding the proposed projects. And finally, we will request approval of both resolutions included in your packet. The additional appropriation resolution must be approved by the board before bond proceeds may be spent on project costs. The final bond resolution establishes the amount to be borrowed, which is $5.815 million, the maximum term of repayment, which I believe is 3.5 years, the maximum interest rate, which is in the resolution at 5%, the form of the bonds, and grants us the authority to publish our notice of intent to sell bonds later this summer. The resolution also establishes the bond bid committee and formalizes our reporting responsibilities, as this will have to be reported up through the Securities and Exchange Commission and follow their guidelines. At this time, Mr. Newport will provide information regarding our past bond projects and anticipated uses for these 2022 proceeds.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Superintendent Hayworth, President Killian, members of the board. And thank you, Mrs. Lohr. At our last board meeting, you had asked us to present on the history of the general obligation bonds and how the school corporation has utilized those funds. And I'm proud to bring that to you with some of the great planning from our previous director, Mr. Rick Long, who just retired last month. A quick review from our last board meeting. A general obligation bond is a type of municipal bond that is backed entirely by the issuer's creditworthiness and ability to pay through local tax levy. Vigo County School Corporation has utilized these bonds to fund large capital projects that typically are not seen by the public. Examples of some of these projects are roofing, paving, or HVAC replacements. These projects are not typically general maintenance, but rather are replacement projects. They are part of an ongoing maintenance plan for the school district and are revisited annually with a temperature check, literally with HVAC components, of the current priorities or needs of the district. The Vigo County School Corporation has a long-standing relationship with Martin Riley Architecture, who has helped guide the district with high-quality master planning for key facility infrastructure. The GO bond projects have multiple input points to help drive the projects. There's a bond oversight committee that discusses matters related to school district borrowing, as well as our general obligation bonds. They also help with our building bonds. They help with planned debt issuance and structure. They are invited to our bid openings when we're planning the projects and receive a report on the completion of the projects. The bond oversight committee consists of board members, administration, and members of the community. We also utilize architectural and engineering planning. Building assessments performed by architects and engineers provide oversight to develop a 5-year roofing, paving, and HVAC plan, and also field reports for ongoing projects where they come in and monitor the project as it is being carried out, and provide the field reports that kind of tell us how things are going and what things need to be revisited, or whether or not we're on pace for completion and on budget. And then finally, our maintenance department, we utilize work order tracking to find trends in areas of need and or equipment and facility failure. For example, a roof leak. We might put a temporary patch on a roof that then makes that building more higher priority for a full roof replacement in future years. I took us back to 2019 to show a little bit of the history of the projects funded by our GO bonds. In 2019, we had 5 roof replacements at 5 different buildings, 3 paving projects, including the fuel station replacement at General Services for our school buses and General Services vehicles, and also a plug-in system for our buses to be able to heat their motor blocks during those winter months. We had 4 HVAC projects with air handling units, chillers, and boiler replacements. In 2020, we continued our plan with 4 roof replacements and 2 parking lots, 2 playground trails, and 5 HVAC projects, including boiler replacements, chillers, and cooling tower replacements. Last summer, we continued with 4 roof replacements and paving in addition to parking lots and playground trails. We also paved 2 of our tennis courts. Last year was a little bit different year where our HVAC projects may have been subsidized by ESSER depending on whether or not they were air quality control. And so we were able to utilize some of the ESSER funds to help with those projects. And then this summer, we have 3 roofing projects going on, 3 parking lot extensions, and 3 boiler replacements. Again, our boiler replacements may be subsidized by ESSER if they qualify. I'm happy to report all of these projects are proceeding on time and on budget. Tomorrow, we start milling and paving at Devaney Elementary, where the parking lots will work from Devaney Elementary, then we'll move on to Franklin Elementary and Deming Elementary, with weather holds out, having all of our paving projects completed by the end of next week, hopefully. So we're on pace well before our summer jumpstart programs get going in our elementary schools. A couple of quick pictures of our ongoing projects. On the left, we have Hoosier Prairie, which is their roof is being repainted, the metal roof. And as you can see, we went with a black color, which just really makes the building pop and really helps with the look of the building from the street, that curb appeal. And then on the right is our Devaney project, where we're putting in a new parking lot on the south side of the facility to help with the parking. If you've ever driven down Devaney's driveway during the day, there's a lot of parking utilized on the kind of left side of the driveway, kind of in the neighbor's grass if we get off the road there. And so we're able to put this parking lot in to kind of alleviate that problem and keep having enough places for all of our employees to park. And then finally, the GO bond projects are just one piece to a larger plan. Our living maintenance plan tracks key systems age and number of breakdowns throughout the years. And we look at boiler brand as we're looking to repair to try to keep a consistent boiler system and a control system that talks with our software, and our chiller age and cooling tower age, again, so that when those systems are, the control systems of those are able to talk with our software. And so, for example, in some buildings, we can see the temperature in every single room because of our control systems. In other buildings, we can only see the temperature, we can only see that the chiller is running. We can't see where in the building it might be, and so that is some of the things that we look to upgrade as we move forward through that. We utilize year-round maintenance, ongoing with 18 skilled tradesmen. We have 2 carpenters, 2 electricians, 5 general maintenance men, 4 HVAC technicians, a locksmith, 2 painters, and 2 plumbers who are out in our buildings every single day, all 30 of them. They are literally the work boots on the ground, and they provide input to future upgrades and replacements with daily meetings with myself or some of the other members of our staff. We utilize input from principals and custodians on areas within a building that consistently break down that we may not see, or that we may not see, like that leaky faucet or that leaky pipe. that we might not always see as even as our 18 skilled tradesmen are working through. And all of these are just data points that drive an ongoing and ever-changing maintenance plan throughout the district, including also our building assessments with architects and engineers that kind of help us drive that plan, create that plan, and work through it. And so we're in the process now of working out for those possible projects for next summer. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to clarify or review.
Good job, John.
Thank you so much, appreciate that.
Thank you.
You threw a few jokes in there. You didn't put comedian on your resume.
Could you punt that presentation to us as board members?
I'd love to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
At this time, there is public comment allowed, but I have not received any notification that anyone would like to make public comment. So we will move on with the approval process.
Do we do them separately or together, Mrs. Wilson?
They can be together if you want.
I move approval of the Exhibit A and Exhibit B as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? All those in favor for this approval for Exhibits A and Exhibit B signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. And any abstention, same sign. Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for adjournment for this meeting and to open our regular business meeting? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. I apologize. Keep going. We'll go ahead and open with our vision and mission statement. Our vision is working together with our community. We inspire our students to discover their talents and rise to their greatest potential. Our mission is building on the strengths of our diverse community. We create an engaging, comprehensive educational environment that supports the growth of lifelong learners. Next on the agenda, we have a presentation of board docs by Superintendent Hayward.
Working on my presentation right now.
You got a thumbs up. That's good.
So,
That's a good sign.
as you see down, item 4 is the adoption of Neola policy. A part of adopting that is we have access to what's called board docs, the resting place for our policies to set. Board docs offers more than just a resting place for our policies to set. Allows some features that I think might assist the board as we continue to move forward and we try to match the efforts that is occurring within our buildings as we try to become more digitally responsive. I'm smiling at Dr. Howard.
It's been a long time.
So, I don't know, William, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
All right, so we're going to turn the presentation over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Hayward and the board for inviting me and letting me present on board docs. What Superintendent Hayward was saying there is pretty much spot on. Right now, you are using board docs to manage your board policies. But board docs has quite a bit more inside of there to help you manage your minutes and agendas. I just wanted to see how many of the board members here are familiar with board docs to any extent outside of just the policy portion.
Not
Maybe
really.
a presentation by IASBO at a conference, but other than that, very limited.
Okay, so limited. Okay, no problem at all. So I want to go ahead and share my screen here. Share my entire screen. Let's see. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to this tab. So right now, like I mentioned, you are using Board Docs to manage your policies. So we've all probably have gone on to Board Docs to take a look at policies as they're being worked on or as they're being improved. As I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, or just the other minute, Board Docs has a lot more. I'll go ahead and show you just a quick tour of Board Docs. We have a public-facing portion as well as a portion that you will be able to access when you are logged in as a board member. From the public-facing side, we can see a couple of things. We can come in and view our meetings, past and present. I'm showing you Benton Township School District's site here. They're in Pennsylvania, so a little bit closer to you than I am, where I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, so I guess Pennsylvania's just a little bit closer. Let's come into one of their May meetings. We can view their agenda here.
William, is there a way that you can, or Catherine, a way to close out our icons of who's on the call so that we can enlarge the screen? And maybe if you could zoom in, William, we're having a little difficulty in seeing your screen.
Yeah, no problem. Let me go ahead and zoom in here. Let me see. Does this look good? I want to make sure that we're all set here.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is minimize your picture on the screen.
I'd like to do that too. I don't know that I can.
Technical difficulties they're bound to happen.
Oh, okay, don't do
They're almost
that.
guaranteed to happen at this point, in this day and age. Let me know when everything looks good, and I can adjust on my end as well.
Yeah, if you could enlarge your screen a little more for us,
Yep, sounds good here. Does that look good?
that's better.
Okay, I'm pretty much zoomed in to 150%, so I think hopefully this makes it a little bit more viewable. If I zoom in anymore, it's going to be quite difficult to see things. So we'll work with what we got here. So as I was saying, we have a public-facing side of Board Docs. And I can come into Board Docs here and take a look at this school district's Board Docs site. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the May regular meeting and jump into that agenda. So right now, you're using Google Drive to manage all of your minutes and agendas, so you have to search through all of that, and you have to scroll through, a packet. With Board Docs, everything gets laid out on the left-hand side, and we can just come in from the public end here as well. So take a look at all of our different attachments and relevant meeting information. So we can divide everything up and have everything piece by piece for you in your agenda.
Can you ask questions while he's talking? Okay,
Of
so
course,
question
yeah.
real quick. This would kind of take away the necessity to have all of the documents emailed out, and also, is this something that only board members have access to?
Yeah, so like I was saying, we have a public-facing side of Board Docs, which is what I'm showing you right now.
This is a public one, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this would reduce the need to email items around. When we get into the logged in portion, which as board members will need logins and we'll have logins. We'll be able to see how that works and how you're able to have elevated permissions so you can view more sensitive information as it's relevant. Any questions? Any other questions I can answer? Okay. So that's taking a look at the public-facing side of meetings. We can also view minutes very easily within Word docs. This is a little bit zoomed in here. I'm going to zoom out so we can see this a little bit easier. There we go. So this might not be totally readable on your screens there, but we can easily have our minutes right within Word docs. And this district is taking care of quite a bit of business. So we can see all of their minutes on their board meetings here. And that is the public-facing minutes portion as well. So any other questions I can answer here before I go ahead and flip over to the logged in section?
William, will that also, when you move to the other pages, will you explain our ability to incorporate the minutes while we're in a meeting?
Yeah, so I can answer that right now. When we're logged in to Board Docs and we need to, so I'm guessing this is around, reviewing minutes for approval, correct?
Correct.
Yep, that is something that we can do within Board Docs. So let's say I've gone ahead and logged in here on my site. I come into the agenda, and let's say, we need to take action on some minutes. Catherine or whoever is taking care of setting up our agenda will be able to just attach the minutes right within Board Docs really easily. And then the board, you as the board can review this very easily right within Board Docs, just like we were seeing within the public-facing section as well. Now, minutes that we're reviewing and approving will not be visible to the public until we make them, but we can easily attach these for review within Board Docs. So when we're logged into Board Docs, we have a couple of different content sections. Of course, we have everything that the public can see, but you as board members will have elevated permissions, so you'll be able to see what we call executive content. Right now, this might be sent to you separately, outside of just as an attachment in an email. But in Board Docs, we release one agenda. You as the board will have elevated permissions to see more sensitive content. An example of this is, let's say a student is up for expulsion. That's never a fun time. Public needs to know that there's an expulsion hearing going on and maybe this needs to go to executive section. But the board, you will be able to see maybe the student's name, date of birth, which school they're at, the elementary, high school, or middle school, any other relevant information, maybe details on why they're having this hearing. So that's what we're going to be able to see from the board member side. Any questions that I can answer about this so far? I want to take the silence as there aren't any questions here. Keep moving. Just feel free to jump in if anything does come up here. One other thing for board members just to note is that we can actually prepare for our meetings and take notes during our meetings here. We have a notes section so you can create your own personal notes prior to the meeting or during the meeting. And these stay private to you, so you can come in here at any time and review what you wrote about or took a note on. Maybe you wanted to make a note of a question you had for the board meeting or needed to take a note during the meeting. You can store all of those right within Board Docs. I'm going to pause right here and see if there are any concerns from the board just regarding moving to something like this or anything else that I can show you within Board Docs here.
So, Matthew, William, before you came online, we just had a presentation to the board. How would that, if we wanted to publish that, how would that be published besides our streaming of our meeting, how would that set to where if our community wanted to click on that and see that presentation?
Yeah, so if this is a presentation that's part of an agenda item, we can either attach that directly into our agenda, or within board docs, we have this library section here, and we can make presentations easily available right within the library section here, instead of having to put that in Google Docs.
Thank
So we
you.
have multiple ways of publishing things,
Thank you.
2 different ways. Any other questions here that I can answer?
Not in relationship, I don't think there's in relationship to the function. Can you speak to cost?
Yeah, so since the district is a member of ISBA, we actually have a partnership as board docs with ISBA as well. And that gets you preferred rates on board docs, which is great for the district and for other member districts in Indiana. So board docs, version that we're looking at here is $11,000 per year.
Thank you.
So that's paid yearly, and the agreement, is an auto renewal. So as long as you're paying your subscription fee, that $11,000 annually, you will be able to have access to board docs. That includes ongoing training and 24/7, 365 support as well.
So I have a question about that. So you said it's an auto renewal process. I guess my question is then who owns the information? And how would that work, 5 years down the road, something new comes along, there's a disagreement, whatever, we end our relationship with board docs, but we have all this data stored on board docs. How do we go about retrieving that so that we can still have that for record?
Yeah, so we will hand over all of your data to you, regardless of whether, you're leaving board docs for some reason. In that event, you can just request a data transfer and we will send you an export of your data. So you are in control of that at all times.
All right, thank you.
So our policies are in board docs right now, is that through Neola?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
Would there also be a place in there to include like the information about board members, like the forward-facing part of it, like where we represent, where the districts are? I get that question a lot from people who don't know exactly where we are.
So this is something within board docs as well. I don't get too many questions on this, so this is a first, but within board docs, we can include information on specific board members. So we can have board member profiles here, and we can include public information on these board members. So let's say, for example, my sample board member, Bill Smith here, we might need to just provide an email address, or a phone number, or maybe just a quick bio. And under executive content, more sensitive, maybe we can include some relevant documents or emergency contact information for this board member, whatever else you would like to have. So we can easily include more information on board members, who they represent, where they're from, and more sample biographical information there. Anything else?
William, thank you.
Awesome. Any last questions I can answer here before I let you get back to your meeting here?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Sounds like everything's good here. Well, thank you for letting me present again, and I look forward to taking any questions that you have. Catherine and Dr. Hayworth have my information, so please feel free to send them any questions that you might have, and I will get back to them very quickly.
So we'd like for the board to consider moving to board docs to answer Amy's question. It really kind of becomes the portion of our website that is dedicated to the board, dedicated to governance. It also does this, it allows us to move away from paper packets, allows us to move into some of the things we're asking our students to do and our staff to do, and that is do things digitally. So I think as we get down to agenda item 4, I would ask us to consider the purchase of this product. So, not asking that right now, just wanted you to see the presentation.
So as far as like transparency goes, though, for the public, this would be a huge tool for that. The interface looked pretty user-friendly to me. I don't know what everyone else thought, but when we're asked questions about those things, it would be a pretty, 2 clicks and you find it, right?
And I believe so. I think the number of presentations that we've given, you think to John's presentation and then before John, how many times have we been up in front of the board to see the GEO bond process work? You would have a history of that you could click on to see each one of those presentations. So I think it has a number of different tools. One that we did not get into is our ability actually during the meeting to work on the actual minutes of the meeting as it's taking place. So there could be a quicker turnaround possibly on that. So no action required at this time.
And really, if you break down the math, he said 11,000 yearly, 117 monthly, just to show you a mathematician over here. 229 a week, comes out to be 33 a day. And if you're somebody that wants to look at the docs at midnight, it comes out to be $1.36 an hour altogether. So keep that in mind. That gives somebody 24-hour access depending on their schedule. So for $1.36 an hour is what we would provide this service to the community.
And it would keep us much more organized.
And save paper.
And I wouldn't have.
Emails, messages out.
Dr. Powers has been way ahead of us on the digital component of it anyway.
Right here, the agenda's here, they're all right here.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Looking for a motion to approve in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those, well, first, are there any questions or comments from the board? All those in favor for approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstentions? Approved.
Before we move on, could I have somebody turn the lights on?
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask the same. Thank you.
If you're reading
I was just thinking about Mr. Cox.
Yeah.
Actually, I see a lot better in the dark.
We will move on to our new business, the personnel report, professional leave request, Mr. Michael Cox.
Probably why I need glasses, which I don't have. President Killian, Superintendent Hayworth, members of the Board of Trustees. Administration seeks approval of personnel and professional leave report as amended in Form A and Form B.
And you want those approved separately tonight?
I would like both of those approved tonight separately.
I move approval of the personnel report and professional leave request A.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve the personnel report and professional leave request A. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. And abstained. Thank you. Personnel report, professional leave request A approved.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve the personnel report and professional leave request, section B.
I'll second that.
Mrs. Moore can have it.
We have a motion by Mrs. Lauer, a second by Mrs. Lore for professional leave request and personnel report B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Opposed.
And abstained, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the textbook fees for grades K through 12 for the 22-23 school year. Mrs. Donna Wilson.
President Killian, Superintendent Hayward, members of the Board of School Trustees, contained in this evening's board packet are the proposed student fees for the 22-23 school year. You will note that elementary fees are lower and middle school fees are nearly the same as last year. High school fees shown are only those for the new math adoption materials, as that was the subject that was adopted this summer. All other book material fees at the high school level would remain the same.
Move approval then for the textbook costs as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and approval. Are there any public comments on the textbook fees for grades K through 12 for the next school year? I do not have anything presented at this time. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I do have a question. So, you know, when we have textbook fees, and we've obviously moved to digital platforms on a lot of it, I think a lot of people don't realize that we still pay fees to access that digital material, and we still have consumables that we use each year that go with it. So even though we may not have always a textbook that goes home every night with a student, you know, they have access to it on their Chromebook, and we have to pay a fee for that, and this is part of that.
And the majority, we find that the majority of the cost is in the creation of the material, not in actually the book itself.
Yep.
Yes, that is correct. And we even keep classroom sets of books for those students
Absolutely.
to access those textbooks in the classroom if need be.
Do we know why the elementary one is going down? I mean, that's good, but
Primarily the math materials, I believe.
Everyday Math was a very robust program that was more expensive overall. We adopted that 17 years ago, and so over the years, we've kept the fees the same. This year, when our group of teachers that were looking at the math materials, they found that there were 3 very comparable systems of mathematics with the curriculum, and so 2 of them were significantly cheaper than Everyday Math. And so a lot of the concepts, though, were taught in very similar fashions. It kind of basically the other vendors have caught up. And so that's when the teachers were looking at, since the content was very similar and it was going to be more affordable, and then the new product probably even has a more robust digital platform. It was why the teachers went within their election and decided to go with a different vendor.
great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second to approve the textbook fees for the 2022-23 school year. All those in favor by adopting this fee schedule signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstention, same sign. Thank you. Next, we have the grants for adult education, Mr. Doug Gillian.
Superintendent Hayworth, President Killian, Board of School Trustees. We are seeking approval here tonight for a competitive grant that's our primary funding source for adult basic education program. In a typical year, we serve approximately 400 to 450 community members with these funds. During COVID, our numbers did drop to 350, but our percentage of level gains increased. We are also seeing an increase in our English language learner population for adults. And we, this past year, had nearly as many high school equivalencies earned as previous years, even with COVID. We look forward to this next year ramping up our credentialing programs again for adults and getting it back to full strength. And at any given time, we employ between 8 and 12 teachers with these funds, 2 assistants, an admin clerical, and a portion of my assistants with these funds. And we're seeking approval to continue to accept these funds and continue our adult education program.
I move approval of the adult education grant as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Thank you for all your hard work, Mr. Gillian. We have a motion and a second for the adult education grant approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And abstention. Thank you, it's approved. Next, we have the Neola policy, second reading, Superintendent Hayward.
And no action is required. We have 3 readings of policy before Neola were to go live. So this constitutes that second reading. At this time, we do have the Teachers Association that we are working with in regards to some policies, I think, located in sections 3,000 that we'll need to bring back in front of the policy committee so that we make sure that our teachers' agreement and subsequent agreements in the past are reflected within those policies. Outside of those, we do have that on board docs for your review. Our plan is, our goal is to move officially to the Neola policies at the beginning of August, which would mean we would be looking for final adoption on the 25th. Any questions that you might have in regards to any of the policies?
So we're at the second reading stage now, and when we have public comment, how does the public access this to review?
Yeah, well, it will become, as William said, forward-facing after tonight. I would also say this, that during the policy committee meetings, those were public meetings. That as we look to move through policy, the public could have attended to also provide comment at that time as well.
Thank you.
I just wanted stated, I won't be at the next meeting. It's not some big overarching thing. I don't want the policy changed. I'll be on family vacation. But I do appreciate the work that the policy committee's done on this. I know it wasn't an easy task or a short task. But what I do like about Neola is it's kind of a standardized policy. Lots of schools have the same policies or very similar policies. And then those policies are constantly reviewed by Neola's lawyers for ever-changing laws and things like that to always keep us in compliance. So I do appreciate that about Neola.
Thank you.
So no action.
No action required.
Thank you. Next is the football agreement with St. Mary of the Woods College, Superintendent Hayward.
Board President, we are going to ask that we delay action on this agreement. It has nothing to do with our commitment to seeing St. Mary of the Woods launch their football program. It is in a couple of the details within the contract that we are entering into the memorandum of understanding. Not huge issues, issues dealing with concessions, those types of day-to-day operational pieces, and who will own those on game day. We are looking to enter into the agreement so that St. Mary of the Woods can access West Vigo High School's football field. It would not interfere with the schedule for West Vigo High School, as these games would occur on Saturday afternoons, similar to what you would find in college football around the country. But we do plan to bring that back in front of you on the 25th.
Thank you. Next, we have call for citizens' comments. I do not have anything in front of me, so we will go ahead and move forward with information from Superintendent Hayward and board members.
The information I have is that we've turned the page on last school year. It is July, and we are now making plans to welcome over 13,000 students here in August. And so we're busy with our hiring processes. We're planning our back-to-school opportunities where we will start to meet with staff. And so it's exciting for us in this office, but it's still a lot of hard work. A lot of people think that when school is not in session, that we get the summers off. It is quite the opposite. We're in full gear of trying to welcome back those students. So we do have a couple of activities planned in terms of administrative retreat this week, as well as a visit to a couple of institutions in central Indiana related to school to work initiatives that we're looking at.
How are we on open positions?
Michael Cox, how are we on open positions?
Special education right now.
That what, I'm sorry?
Special education right now,
Okay.
but the other positions are doing well. We should be ready to go.
Thank you.
Is there any information for board members that you would like to share? And we can combine that with committee reports from the board members if you'd like. We are a quiet group today. Hank, I hope you have a great vacation.
Thanks. We plan to. We typically haven't had a meeting the last week of July. I usually try to plan around that, but this one was a bigger one, so we went before the meeting calendar was posted, so I do apologize. That'll be the first meeting I've missed.
If there are no other reports or comments, our future meeting will be Monday, July 25th at 6 p.m. here at the VCSC Administration Building Conference Center. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.